Friends of Mort Service and Repair. Welcome back to the shop. It seems like all of my videos of late have been me venting about engineer idiocies. Well, we got another one for you. Some of you know that I have featured a couple of these 757 or 737 Z-Tracks in my shop over the years. And every one of them I have had to do one particular thing with: carburetor work. And every time I swear like a sailor with a red torrent of foul language because Kawasaki thought it was a brilliant idea that in order to remove the carburetor, you have to remove the blower housing and the air intake. Otherwise, the bottom of the carburetor knocks up against that part of the block right there. What cognitive dysfunction was going on at Kawasaki when they designed the FH680D or the FH721D engines? Why did you insist on making it impossible to work on these carburetors in an easy fashion? Any other V-twin of yours, just a couple of bolts, whoop, the carburetor comes right off. No, you couldn't do that. You couldn't have something be simple because it's on a Deere. You had to bow to Deere's whims when they said make it impossible for the customer to work on so that they have to bring it to us. And you said, your wish is my command. And here I am. An hour and a half further into this job than I wanted to for this customer because you designed something that was horribly stupid. And all this, and I haven't even gotten to the carburetor itself. There. So I'm going to get to cleaning this thing and find out what is going on and why this thing will not start without me completely obstructing the air intake. I'll dive into it. Oh, and of course, it being the Nicky carburetor that Kawasaki elected to put on this engine, and I'm guessing this is the first, I would put money on that this is the first time this carburetor's been into, because they make these blasted screws so tight that you need to use a vice grips to get them off. Just like that. And it's they're not using Loctite. They're not using any sort of thread locker. They just over torque these Phillips or flathead screws way too much. Like, come on. Just simple. Tighten them down till they're hand tight, or be a pain in the fill in the blank like this one is. This channel of mine is family friendly thus far, and I'd like to keep it that way, which is definitely one of the reasons why you did not see the removal process of this carburetor, because there was definitely lots of not family friendly things that I said. Come on. Ugh. As I said, after a red torrent of foul language, and there's been plenty of that here, just between the last two cuts of footage here, 30 minutes has surpassed, or has passed by, surpassed, I don't know. I'm tired of dealing with stupid engineers. Oh, and I had a customer show up, so I had to take care of him. But had to ultimately, fortunately, I had these guys, Knipex Twin Grip. They got actual framing, you Fruit Loop. They got actual, like, ways that you can grab the screw like that. I was able to camera error code ID10T. That's me. Anyway, I'm able to actually grab the screw on the crown like that, and it's actually got biting teeth on it, which is absolutely fantastic. Something like that. I tried, I'm going to remember that going forward, because I hadn't actually tried it because I was always afraid there wouldn't be enough room to get the jaws in there, but it did fit, and I was able to use one of my regular Knipex Cobras in conjunction with the Knipex Twin Grip to grab hold of those screws and pop them loose that way. Okay, so nothing really going on in the bowl. Yeet. I'm gonna see if we got any life in the solenoid. It's so strange because this engine will fire up when I completely obstruct the air intake, but only for a very brief minute. So I gotta see if this solenoid actually has any life to it. Huh, putting it on a battery right over here, it does actuate quite nicely. So now I gotta make sure that we're getting power to it by way of the mower itself. Well, we can start buttoning up the carburetor, because that ain't the problem. I put the carb on the brain, short circuiting. Yes, that is the correct direction. Put the bowl of the carb on the little contactor or the connector for the. Yeah, words are hard. You can tell I've been furious today. Anyway, plug this guy in, touch this to ground, turn the key on, nothing. So we are clearly not getting voltage to our little anti-afterfire solenoid here. So that is where my problem lies. The joys of now I gotta trace wires everywhere, which I absolutely detest. And that entirely explains why this rig was not wanting to fire, save when I would cover up the air intake, because just the suction of the cylinders was able to overcome and pull fuel past the afterfire solenoid. Yeah, so I hate I hate chasing wires, but you gotta do what you gotta do, and I gotta do it. So I'll do that without you guys, because no one likes to watch. Honestly, I don't think anyone likes electrical. Well, started chasing some wires around, and came out to put my lead on here, turned the key, and started going around, and I heard a little, as in the sound of a short. Of course, you switched to my camera that is filthy. Thanks. There we go. And look at this. Something was dragging on the flywheel. So I'm going to have to pull this whole harness back through the flywheel housing, and I'm going to have to redo some wires. So that's well, fortunately that one's pretty simple. Once we got her all back on, we can test the leads. So yay for more electrical work. Joy. Well, fortunately, dear John gave me this whole harness to come out of the mower with. So, oh man, my bench is filthy. So what I'm going to do is before I even put the carburetor back on, I am going to be redoing that wiring. You can see just what happened. I've clearly rubbed on the flywheel, so we're going to take this coating all the way off, repair those wires, and then we are going to tape it all up goodly and proper. So have a look at the wires right here. And focus, you. Thank you. You can see obviously the flywheel frayed right through it, but right here you can see when I was pulling on that wire where it touched the engine block and it shorted out because it was shortening to ground. So I have a look at the rest of the wires here. As long as we got this one out, it looks like the other wires are fine. A couple of apprentice marks from when I was cutting the coating off of them, but not too bad. Yeah, we got little bit of a chowdering right there. Nothing I can't just tape up real quick, nice and easy. We don't have any sort of contact or conductor. There we go. Damage to that one. So let's check the other voltage regulator wire. But like I said, a couple of apprentice marks from when I was cutting the coating off of it. These two wires look to be in good shape. So we'll go ahead and just tape up this black conductor here for the this goes to what I believe to be the ignition module's kill wire. So if you'd frame, you Fruit Loop. So I'll find that guy, and once I have this all fixed up, I'll bring you guys back and show you the finished product of when I actually bind it all back up again. And I am probably going to route this guy outside of the blower housing so that there is no chance of the flywheel rubbing on it again and causing a potential short to ground. So, because the last thing we want, as you guys know, I'm a firefighter. The last thing I need is someone's machine catching a light in their garage because I did not take preventative measures to make sure that the wiring is out of the way of the most common and fastest moving part on the mower. So, let's get to it. Oh, and one more thing. Still mad at the engineers about that carb thing. Did I need to dive into the carb? No. But I had to get to the carb to find out what the problem actually was. Had to take the carb off in order to test the little solenoid to see if it was working. Okay, probably didn't need to, but all the same, it's a stupid design that Kawasaki put together. I already cleaned my cameras once. I'm not doing it again. And not happy with it. So, I'm going to put this wiring back together. Okay, had to clean them one more time. So, yeah. So I got me, looks like we are working with some American Wire Gauge 20 here. So, these are maybe 20 and a half, but not working with a bunch of amperage here. So American Wire Gauge 20 ought to be plenty for the application. We could go a size up on it, and although that would be American Wire Gauge 18. So yeah, it's probably what we got as it is right now, but I unfortunately do not have American Wire Gauge 18 right now. So we'll actually, before we go any further and strip this anymore, we're going to go ahead and cut this guy to length. Make sure we got plenty of space for the two ends. Cut you there. Because yes, we're completely cutting out the old burnt up end of conductor there, just so there is no question about whether or not this is good to go. So we'll use some heat shrink and a couple of butt splicers there to repair this properly. They're the heat shrink butt splicers to make sure that this is all just so. Because I mean, some of you all might be saying, "Whoa, make sure you use actually." So I thought I had extra parts. Be right back. Amazing what a little brake clean will do for your camera lenses. Well, hello, little honeybee. Sorry, I am ADD as I'll get out. Hey there, bud. Go find some of my flowers, please. Pollinate those and feed your hive, because I love honey. Anyway, I elected, since this is the very low amperage solenoid circuit, I went ahead and used some Scotch locks to bond this back together, and I will wrap both of these up good and proper in some electrical tape, and then I will also wrap the whole thing of this in electrical tape so it is nice and well preserved. So we'll leave I want to say about so much of the tails exposed, and then obviously this one right here, this is for the low oil sensor. I can basically just wrap it to the base right there, and we're good to go. So it's time to get taping. Well, there we go. Ain't pretty, but this is not part of the wiring that is easily seen for a customer. So, but most importantly, I'm gonna check, make sure we have continuity across our little circuit here. I'm wondering if this black wire here. Oh no, never mind. That's interesting because they got the solenoid and the voltage regulator wires coming back to the same spot on that little terminal block there. So let's check to make sure we got good continuity. Stay put. So there you are. So contact. Hey, and yep. So excellent. So now we get to put it back on the mower. It's not going to be fun because it's getting warmer here today. And I still haven't swapped out my radiant heater for my blower fan that is mounted to an old Han Eclipse mower deck. So it's getting to be that time of year. So before we start putting any of this back together, because I do not want to take this apart again, let's see if we can prop you up here. And so we got plugged in, and then this just touches ground somewhere. And if my theory if my idea that the wire's being torn up is in fact correct, we should hear this solenoid click nicely. And there we go. I'll double check it by touching it. Oh yeah, that's opening and closing nicely now. So that was the reason why she weren't starting. So it's time to assemble all of this dog pile. You can adjust the words you want in that sentence for yourself. Okay, all reassembled. Gonna take a second for it to crank over because it's got to pump the fuel into the carbonator. But here we go, contact. Let's hear her roar these blades to life. Contact. That's this mower all wrapped up. We're back on this John Deere 737 again. As some of you watched my previous video, I literally had dropped this off in the customer's driveway. He started mowing with it. It started smoking like nobody's business. Well, when your flywheel is covered in oil like that, that tells you one thing. Your flywheel seal has pushed out. So, now, that's not the only problem we came across. And that was, it stopped charging on us. So, we look at the stator coil right here. We had some magnet collision. So, So we can see we definitely got some damage on these samarium cobalt magnets, a tidy bit to be exact. Now, the good news is that there's still a ton of these magnets left, and this mower does not use a whole lot of power. The most it uses is when the PTO clutch is in gear, and that's not a horribly amp dense load. It's only about 10, maybe 15 amps. This rig will put out, or this stator coil will put out 15 amps at an idle. So that's the nice thing. I believe it's closer to 10 amps. It's got a 15 amp fuse on the circuit, so it shouldn't be pulling that kind of power. So we're gonna try and pull this guy off, or that stator off, with the help of the Knipex twin grips, because the last person who was in here did not give one solitary hoot about the fasteners that holds the stator coil in. So I'm gonna be having to monkey around with getting those things to pop loose, and I'm gonna see if I can get some new fasteners to go in its place in the form of hex heads as opposed to the Phillips heads that are in there. So we're gonna set to work on that. So I had to bust out a tool that I used in the video on this same mower. These Knipex twin grips. If you are a mechanic or a small engine mechanic and you don't, or a mechanic in general, and you don't have a pair of these, you've got to pick one up, because it is great for when these Phillips head screws are all stripped out, and if you got enough space to get these jaws on them, because they got that front facing jaw, you can torque these screws out of there with relative ease with these guys. So get them set up kind of like so, and then I take my regular Knipex Cobras and I get them on the tail of these twin grips, squeeze down good, and then lots of torque you, and there we go. I don't know if you guys heard that little pop of the screw coming loose, but boy howdy, the flutes on the end, or the teeth on the end of these pliers, it makes such short work of popping these screws loose. So if you don't have a pair of these yourself, Knipex twin grip, Knipex, I call them Knipex, but tomato. If you don't have a pair of these, you've got to get a pair. Scamazon has them. Mac Tools truck will have them. At least my Mac guy does. But I really like these twin grips. They've proven to be their weight in gold since I discovered how easily they'll pop these stripped out screws out. Now I can already hear some of you saying, you could just use the old, put the Phillips head into the 1/4 inch drive on your socket wrench. But it's one thing if you got nice clean screws, what for doing that with, but these screw heads are absolutely shredded, and I could not get any grip on them with a bog standard number 2 Felipe. Like I'm hoping my local lumber yard has these, or has a set of these machine screws. This is probably the second cleanest looking head on there, and you can see it is chowdered right up. So I'm going to pull the rest of these out off this stator and see if my local lumberyard has these. If not, I'm not going to be broken up, and I'll probably just reuse these screws, but I really want to try and replace them if I can. I could reuse these screws for the sole purpose of, this is the stator we're talking about here. It does not come off the machine that often. And I clearly found out what the problem was with why it's not charging, because the stator is damaged from the magnets breaking free, or breaking loose and breaking free from the flywheel. So can rule that guy out, and I can rule the voltage regulator out on that being the issue with the charging system. It is no doubt in my mind that it is solely the stator that is the issue with no charging on it. So if there was any doubt in our minds about whether or not the stator coil, focus, you, come on. If the stator coil was our issue here, we'll just go ahead and put that one right to rest right now. As you can see, there's also some other schmutz on there. Oh yeah, the coil was actually starting to heat up a little bit. So definitely something to watch out for. Good thing I bought the genuine Kawasaki parts to replace this guy. I always try and get the genuine parts as close as I can because I don't want to have to dive back in here again. Getting this flywheel off is a pain right in the rear end because there's just not real much space here to work on the blasted thing. So let me pull out the new coil so you can see how much different it looks. So you can see clear as day that the new one is definitely in very much more gooder shape. Oh, you could actually see right here that this actually got thwacked at some point and got displaced sideways. Good Lord, it looks like I haven't cleaned my cameras in years. Yay for the nature of the beast. So actually, you got a little bit of breakage on the insulation of the new one right here. Now, I'm not too worried about that because that is on a post that does not have wiring around it. So, but you'll see that on the old one, if we look at the old one, there's different colors of coating on here. This one looks a little lighter. It looks like the coating on this copper may have melted off at some point and it started to hot up. And that may be, I don't see how that would have caused the magnet to break loose, but hey, stranger things have happened. But anyway, yeet. But yeah, you'll see how on this stator coil framing, you Fruit Loop, how all of the coils are one uniform color. So, and whenever you are mounting your stator, your cord always goes out the back side of the stator. So remember that when you're putting it in. But before we put this guy in, I'm going to slap in the new flywheel side oil seal on this guy. Wow. The flywheel side of the Kawasaki crankshafts are a little bit bigger than the Kohlers. So I normally use just my 1.25" socket to press them in, and that was not big enough. So I used my Torx driver, or my T30 Torx driver, to gently press that seal in on that crankshaft there. So you can see it right there. And now it's time to put that stator in. Well, the day is the morrow, and I got the 4-footed chop apprentice with me. And I got the Deere John all loaded back up onto the trailer. And I noticed after I put it all back together that we had a little lateral movement in the crankshaft on this guy, which is not good. Barking spider. And I ended up notifying the customer and telling him that he has one of two options. He can either get rid of the machine or he can replace the engine, because that's about all you can do when you get, because that engine's done. It will start leaking oil here very quickly. So I told him about that, and he said go ahead and bring it back tomorrow. And so that's what I'll do. That wraps up this one. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.